Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to more CSGO news, and I hope you guys all enjoy. As always, all of today's stories will be timestamped down below. Some very unique roster changes out there as IEM Sydney is underway. On top of that, of course, we'll break down IEM Sydney on Monday, and I highly encourage all of you to watch it because it has been absolutely insane. It was actually Fnatic versus NIP this morning, one of the best of threes that I have seen in quite some time, and I only watched the third map. So if you guys want to watch the VODs of that, I really encourage you to do so. IEM Sydney so far has been very fun to watch, and Astralis is missing on all the action. But as always, I hope you guys all enjoy. Let's hop into our first story, which has so many storylines around it, that being the North most recent roster change. And I'm really curious what you guys think about this, because it certainly could be in many eyes out there an iffy change. And that will be Team North removing Cadian from the roster, and along with that, adding Jugi from, of course, Optic's bench. He's been there for quite some time. He now joins Team North and will be their new primary opper. And with that role change leaving the IGL spot wide open, it will be, according to them, Valde taking that spot. So some huge role changes for this team. We'll discuss that in a second, but the storylines around this is actually immense. Now, I don't usually talk about storylines around roster changes for a long period of time, but Cadian is one of those players out there that I saw play for an NA team like Rogue and had a fairy tale run, grabbing that team together. He kept them together. They have now, of course, have left CSGO for the time being, but they had that somewhat fairy tale run under Cadian's charge, and along with that, he found his place closer to home with this North roster, which ultimately seemed like his dream team to play for. So it's always sad to see a guy play for them and reach his final goal and all of a sudden be kicked off that roster. Although I think a lot of us somewhat saw this move coming. There were rumors about this change coming as well several months ago. Now, along with that, I think he is in a very established IGL. He definitely has a place to play in this scene for quite some time, and I wish him the best of luck going forward. He's been kind of drug out between roster and roster, temporary or stand-in, so I really wish him the best of luck going forward. I really do feel bad seeing this kind of roster change. Even more importantly, though, I would say what an amazing run by Jugi. If you guys have been following this guy, when it comes to the possibility of a Danish climb out there, he has made that to the extreme success. If you guys remember, it was back when he was actually held kind of captive on the Tricked bench because Tricked Esports, that is, they found out he wanted to play for Heroic, so they put him on the bench. It was then Heroic who bought him out anyway, so he joins Heroic. Then he goes to Optic. He still is a pretty solid member on Optic as well, not necessarily a part of the full-on Danish scene, more the European scene, even though they had some Danish members there as well. Now they've actually completed that run with Jugi, that being all the way to North. He has now completed that climb, the Tricked Esports to, of course, Heroic, and now finally North. He has approached the top tier of the Danish ladder, of course, besides Astralis. But either way, the success he has seen over the past 2 years, the climb he has seen, it's got to be really rewarding to see this guy, if you are a huge fan of his, to see the climb he has made as well, to now finally join Team North. Will they make improvements, though, is the big question, because this role change has not suited many teams very well. Although, yes, FaZe Clan has kind of somewhat rebounded, not necessarily at IEM Sydney so far because of visa issues. You look at many star players out there who have taken on the IGL role, who were formerly top fraggers. It has not worked out for most teams out there. You look back, first of all, the first example I remember, there might be some, of course, before this, was a Dren for Gambit. He took on the IGL role, all of a sudden really took a bit of a fall off for them. Then, of course, the most notorious example is Nico for FaZe, you know, a star fragger himself. He takes on the IGL reigns, has certainly suffered a bit, although still trying to carry that team. And now, of course, we have Valde, who is a star-studded, by far and away, the single best fragger, a standout fragger. When you look back for the European minor qualifier a couple majors ago, this guy was literally nuts. And so will this work out for North is the huge question out there. And I know I never spend this much time on a roster change, but this is so important when you see a team like Astralis no longer attending some premier events out there. There is certainly a time now for North to actually kind of decrease that gap between top Danish teams of Astralis and North. Can they do it with this move? Of course, I would say yes. Jugi is a huge improvement in the opping role, but will Valde be an improvement, and will that improvement offset enough of the difference between his fragging power for the team and the IGL role is the ultimate question. This move for me is a risk, but I do like risk sometimes when it comes with reward. We're going to wait to see if North does improve with this Valde movement, and can he be a star-studded IGL alongside a fragger? That's the risky question. And also in roster change news out there, going to be a super short compared to that first dissection of North's move. It's going to be Virtus Pro. They have now signed their brand new member. I'm sure you guys all know him, Okoliciouz. Yeah, I don't really know him. I've heard some good comments about him. I will say one thing, okay? I know you guys maybe get irritated by me getting annoyed by these Virtus Pro changes, but it's such a shock still to me, and maybe for you guys as well, to see these kind of moves of a team that was once a top 5 team in the world to announce players that I have never heard of. And again, if you guys are Polish, you probably maybe have heard about this guy. I will say one thing. I'm glad they're seeing fresh faces. Will these fresh faces, though, together combined actually be a top Polish team once more? It is going to take, in my mind, in my opinion, probably a vast amount of time. So we'll take these moves as they come, but I will not be too excited for now until they start to prove themselves and rebound at least a little bit. And also, very big news out there. It's actually Valve announcing the majors ahead of time for 2020 and 2021. Now, these are just proposals, so they're not going to be dates set in stone quite yet, although they probably will be. And if you guys did notice the dates on top of that, they are now 2-week-long majors, which I'm actually a fan of. I think 3 weeks is a pretty lengthy period of time, although it's not really going to affect me watching it no matter what. If it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I would still watch it either way, but I think shorter the better for these teams as well, obviously taking up a lot less of their schedules. And the biggest part about this, they propose these dates ahead of time for 2020 and 2021, 2 majors each and every year. The most important part here is now teams can actually plan ahead their rosters and their schedules ahead of time, which is a great move. Thank you, Valve. They are taking the Dota 2 plan of actually planning out their major events for teams so they can better schedule ahead of time for these big events. So thank you, Valve. A great move, along with some great updates this week. I think a pretty solid week for CSGO. And also out there on the thumbnail, we had NBK tweeting out some anger, and I'm not really too surprised about this one. For ESL Cologne, it was actually Mousesports receiving a direct invite to the premier event itself, and alongside that, Vitality received a direct invite to the closed qualifier for the event. Of course, when you look currently at both these teams, I would say pretty equal in rankings, pretty equal in uprisings, but of course, Mousesports, a newer roster. Vitality has some titles under their belt, and of course, a pretty solid major run. It does always surprise me how these events actually choose their invited teams. Some people thinking, of course, Cologne, it's a German event, Mousesports, a German organization. Yes, they're going to get the invite. I would say storyline-wise, Mousesports has been performing pretty well on top of that, you know, making playoffs here and there, especially at IEM Sydney. They're an uprising roster, a roster full of powerful players. There's not too big of a disparity between Vitality and Mousesports, although I would say in my book, Vitality does deserve invites because we saw when they first formed this roster, the same complaints. Although at that time, Vitality had yet to accomplish anything with that new roster. I understood it. Now they've made that major run. They have some titles under their belt. I really do believe, in my opinion, I don't know what you guys think about this. Some people saying NBK is just complaining, and someone even called him MB Cry. I think they actually deserve some invites, so hopefully can actually qualify throughout this closed qualifier, make ESL Cologne have a solid run, and future events hopefully will actually start inviting this French roster, because they are currently, by most standards out there, the best French roster who do deserve invites, at least in my opinion. And also, very lastly, for all of you guys out there, Decay has been linking some things, some rumors out there about a brand new Tyloo roster or some brand new Chinese changes coming very soon. Unfortunately enough, for the 5-power roster, it will be a maintained Mongolian roster. Dobu did confirm on Twitter, at least for the minor. I believe their minor run for our Starletter Berlin major, it will be that roster going forward. It's not going to be the huge changes he trolled about, you know, drawing in some big Chinese, Indonesia, and Mongolian players. Unfortunately enough, it did seem to be a troll, as we expected, but according to Decay, we'll wait for more updates from him. There should be some Chinese changes coming sometime soon, likely before our next major run does begin. So as always, I hope you guys all enjoy. One last thing as well, I'm probably going to delay the video to tomorrow. It might come out today, but if you guys did actually watch my last 2 videos about the cheat injection, although it's not a cheat injection, I made up that that term. It was not actually the correct cheater's term. The exploit that was actually leaked came aware by Don Hossie. The cheat makers actually did contact me and Don Hossie. I did actually send them a few questions. I'll be releasing that interview, that text interview, either later today or sometime tomorrow for all of you guys. He did answer a few of our questions as to exactly why he made those cheats, what his plan was for the future of those cheats, so on and so forth. So that should be a nice CSGO video either later today or sometime tomorrow. Other than that, I'm going to take the weekend off. I will see you guys, of course, back here Monday, though, breaking down IEM Sydney, because it's been an insane event. But as always, I hope you guys all enjoy. I will see you back here Monday. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend, and take care of yourselves. Until then, bye.